Roll call.
Tom Collins.
Here.
Craig Palmisano.
Here.
Richard Patterson.
Here.
John Pitts.
Here.
Jim Galantino.
Here.
Margaret Gubernalty. Stephen Giesecke.
Here.
Andrew Campbell.
Present.
Michael Richmond.
Here.
Absent is Michael Ruffio.
Public notice, this meeting is being held in accordance with the New Jersey statute requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, Sunshine Law. Notice of this meeting has been advertised in the press and posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. All applicants are hereby advised that if you receive board approval tonight, you must come forward and sign a form outlining the procedures for obtaining building permits and mercantile licenses. At the conclusion of your case tonight, please approach the board administrator to sign the provided information sheet. Okay, so next we're going to do approval of decisions and resolutions number 24-2024, Keith Fain and Maria Lamenti Fain. Number 25, 2024, Mark Rusk and Christy Reed Rusk.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So, no, sorry. Approval minutes, meeting of June 27, 2024.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, our first, go ahead.
Just have one announcement, or two announcements on the agenda. I'm going to switch the order. The number 2 is going to be heard first, Robert and Lisa Miller, and second will be Michael and Mandy Dorfman. Everything else will stay the same except the application of Sam and Phyllis Watt, 9707B Pacific Avenue, Block 131, Lot 16.2. It's going to be adjourned to our next hearing date. Is that August 22nd?
No, 29th.
The 29th, August 29th, 2024, 6:30 PM in this room. The applicant will not be required to republish or renotice. So if anyone's here for that, that's your notice to come back on August 29th. And then that's
Is your mic on there? I can hardly hear you.
yeah, what do? You push it? Hello?
Mine's not on
Test,
either.
test. All right, I'll speak up, I guess.
Mine's
The Watt application is not going to be heard till August 29th. And then we're going to hear the Miller applications first. And again, if you're here for the Pacific Avenue Watt application, that's not going to be till August 29th. 16 South, now we're working.
Whoa. Really working.
Yeah, and just for the people. Just for the people who just came in, if you're here for Pacific Avenue, the Watt application, that's going to be August 29th. So, assuming, all right, I don't want you to sit here and find that out. But, okay, we'll proceed with the first application. It'll be Robert and Lisa Miller, 16 South Thurlow.
Okay, Robert and Lisa Miller, 16 South Thurlow Avenue, Block 121, Lot 18, located in the S40 zoning district. See variance relief for minimum side yard setback, aggregate side yard setback, and potentially others in order to increase the size of the master bedroom and cover the second floor deck. Current on taxes, water and sewer payments, proof of advertising and notifications provided, represented by Joel M. Fleischman.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of,
I'm going to get Roger sworn in before I forget. Mr. McCartan, do you swear affirm the testimony you'll give throughout this evening will be the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good evening, Joel Fleischman, attorney appearing here this evening on behalf of Robert and Lisa Miller. I'll try to be, first would like to just thank Mr. Goldstein for allowing me to jump ahead of his application tonight, and I will be as brief as possible, so to honor what he did for us. Tonight, we're here to talk about 16 South Thurlow. I feel it's a fairly straightforward application. We're looking for, I think as Roger pointed out, as Mr. McLaren pointed out in his report, there's like 3 variances. We're looking to basically cover what is an existing second-floor porch. We're looking for about a foot, just over a foot, to bump out a master bedroom on the eastern side, which those two things, well, actually, the front porch creates the aggregate side yard setback variance. We have a building coverage variance, and we also have a roof pitch variance. Essentially, what we would like to do is modernize the look of the house by covering the front porch, as I think many houses have on the block as well. It's already actually an existing non-conforming condition, so that does require that variance for that, for the aggregate setback. Building coverage is increasing from 36.2 to 36.9. I think, as you'll hear from Mr. Keegan, who's here with me tonight as our expert, that's a fairly de minimis 27 square feet increase. And the roof pitch is at 3.5 that we're looking for, as opposed to the 512 that you require under the ordinance. I don't, Mr. Miller, Rob Miller's with me here tonight. I don't expect him to testify, but if he is needed, obviously, he's here to answer your questions. I'd like to have Mr. Keegan sworn as our expert for tonight, and then we'll proceed.
Yeah, one minor correction on that, Mr. Fleischman, is the bump out is actually causing the combined side yard
That's-
setback variance.
Thank
The
you.
roof over the porch is fine. That complies.
Okay, Mr. Cajun, just give us your name and business address, please.
Robert Cajun, 618 North Fredericksburg Avenue, Margate, New Jersey.
Okay, and please raise your right hand. You swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
And as a licensed architect, you've been here several times. We'll accept this credentials?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manis.
The Millers approached,
Yeah, go ahead.
Millers approached me about upgrading their house, and they wanted to have a new look because all the new construction going on in the neighborhood. And they said, well, we'd like to fix up the house, and while you're at it, what can you do for our bedroom? Their existing bedroom is a long, narrow bedroom, and I said, you know, if we bump out a foot 10 inches, I can make your bedroom nice and livable, because the existing bedroom is a long, narrow bedroom, and there's really, the furniture placement is very awkward. So I said, let's bump out the side of the house here, and we could do it above the driveway. It doesn't affect parking or anything, and it's really a de minimis addition to the house. It really doesn't affect any light or air, but makes a good improvement to the house. The existing house is very good bones. It's a nice house. It has a nice layout. Unfortunately, they have a central core staircase, and there's not much you can do in the bedroom. So I said, let's ask for permission to bump out this. And this will give you a nice bedroom. You put some furniture in, and then you can walk, between a dresser and the bed, the foot of the bed. And it makes for a nice layout. The other thing is also to update the house to match what's going on in the neighborhood. Let's bring some light into the core of the house and add a couple of dormers here. And we're seeking a variance for the dormer. I can eliminate the variance by making the roof higher, but we don't want to make the roof higher. If I make the roof 2 feet higher, because we're only 28 feet. If I go to 30 feet, I can increase the pitch of the dormer. And the 312, so it just wouldn't look awkward having that bump out in the middle. So that's the reason I'm doing that. So overall, we're going to give the house a nice fresh look, and it should blend into the rest of the neighborhood. And I don't see any real detrimental impact, to the neighborhood as far as light or air goes. And I think it's a clean solution. It's a smart solution. So if there's any questions.
Robert, let me just ask you, the bump out, though, there's an existing chimney on that side of the house, correct?
Yeah, we're going to eliminate the chimney on the house, and we're just going to do a direct vent fireplace.
We're
It's
not going
perfect.
out any further than the
No.
chimney as it exists today, right?
We're following the line of the chimney bump out. That's why I did the 1 foot 10.
And do you see any impact on light, air, open space? You see any, what are the benefits of this project? I know you
Well,
started.
the benefit is instead of tearing the house and doing like what's going on now, we're keeping the existing house and just expanding on that footprint. And it's really minor considering what's going on here. And it's the best thing to do also ecologically, and it's just smart. Take the house and, it's a recyclable, it's a nice house. And, it's rare when you come across a house that you can just simply do something minor to it and, bring it up to current standards.
You see this as a nice aesthetic improvement for that street, which is already a beautiful street. I see any negative impacts on any of the neighbors or on the neighborhood? So do you feel, in your professional opinion, that the benefits of these variances would outweigh any detriments?
Yes.
Do you see any impact negatively to the zone plan or the master plan of the city,
No,
the zoning ordinance of the city?
no negative.
And have you had a chance to review Mr. McLaren's report of July 25th?
Yes.
And do you agree with that report, and do you find any reason why we can't comply with anything that's listed in
I don't
there?
see any issues with Mr. Clarence' report.
Mr. Chairman, that would really conclude our presentation. Obviously, here for any questions.
I have a question. Michael, how much square footage is the bump out? I mean, it's not- how much are you adding to the room? Not,
It was about 27 square feet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 27 square feet.
Right. Anybody else on the board have any questions?
Yeah, the bump out does not protrude any more than the existing
Chimney.
chimney, is that
Yeah,
correct?
Yeah, I line up with the chimney on the house. That's why it's 1'10". I'd like 2 feet, but I did
But that's
1'10".
also 13 feet off the ground.
Yes,
And you're getting rid of the chimney.
yes.
Just the upper part.
Yeah, we're just getting rid of the upper part of the chimney and using a direct vent fireplace.
So why is the side yard setback now greater than in the new design than it is today?
No, it's not greater. We're encroaching into the setback. That's why we're here for the variance.
The combined
for
side yard
aggregate.
setback was 13.7, now it's 12.
Right here. This is the encroachment. Yeah. And this is the area, it's like 13'6", for the parking lot.
Robert, you're increasing the third floor square footage, are you?
On the 3rd floor, we're adding a dormer here and here, and in the floor to bring light. There's no square footage added in the middle, and that's on this plan right here.
Oh, so it's only really dormer space you're adding?
Yeah, we're bumping this out.
Yes.
It's exists, there's roof in there now, but I want to get a window in there. We could have done it with skylights, but
It had skylights.
you have skylights, but we're getting rid of the skylights and adding the lights here.
Yeah, okay.
Because it gives the ability to add some light and air into this
But
area.
it's still 50% of the floor below, or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
So by making the, again, I know you already talked about this, but by reducing the pitch to 3.5, you're actually reducing the height of the roof by 2 feet.
Yes, I
Yeah.
could put the 512, but it'll bring it up 2
Right.
more feet. But still comply with the zoning, but it'll look funny.
Right.
I just want it
Okay.
to match the ridge line.
Great. Anyone else? Anyone from the public like to speak? Okay, the public portion's closed.
I want to just read some of the record in my report.
Oh, sorry.
Right. Not to really go too much, but I just want to go over the application of Robert and Lisa Miller, 16 South Thurlow Avenue, Block 121, Lot 18, Zone S20. Mr. Fleischman has already discussed the background, as has Mr. Cajun. I just want to go to variances in fact. So page 2 and 3 of my report is the zoning chart. Variances required are as follows: side yard setback combined, whereas the minimum required side yard setback to be combined is 37% of the lot width, or 17.4 feet. 13.7 feet exists and 12 feet is proposed. So that's an expansion of a non-conforming setback. Building coverage, whereas the maximum building coverage is 36.2%, they are at 36.2%, and they're increasing it by the 27 feet to about 36.9%. And again, the one identified today was a roof pitch, whereas the minimum roof pitch is 5 on 12. 5 on 12 exists for the existing roof, and 3 on 12 is proposed for the dormers. And again, this, in an aesthetic matter, as a planner, I would agree that it will look funny if the middle of the roof is higher than the other part, and that would be in kind with the rest of that block on that side of the street, actually on both sides. No waivers have been requested. However, all landscape coverage requirements has to be, not coverage, but the shrubs and trees, they have to be abided by. You agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. And again, And we did discuss the size of the dormers, make sure they don't exceed 40% of the floor area of that third floor. And we did go over the numbers, and it is in fact 50% or less of the area of the second floor below. So I have no further comment on that, and again, I believe they put the proofs on that would satisfy their criteria for the C1 and C2 criteria for this application. That concludes my report.
Okay, do you have anything?
Okay. No, if there's no further comments or questions, someone needs to make a motion for C variance relief. The variances are the following: the combined side yard setback, 17.39 feet is required, and they're proposing 12 feet. Building coverage, 36.2% is permitted, and they're at 36.9%. And then the roof pitch, 5 on 12 is the minimum required, and for that dormer roof is 3 on 12. As far as the conditions, I'll note that, they'll comply with the shrubs and tree requirements of our ordinance. Anything else in Mr. McLaren's report unless otherwise addressed, subject to any outside approvals that may be required, if any, and then any representations made by the applicant during the course of the hearing, just the standard conditions that we put in every resolution.
Just one further comment. That bump out, if that didn't include floor area, that would be a permitted encroachment protection.
It didn't include.
Right.
But since it includes floor, you're moving the wall out.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Tom Collins?
Robert, you did a really nice job on this house. Obviously, it doesn't meet a C1 criteria, and there is no hardship here. But I think it really does, especially dictate by the neighborhood, that it does meet a C2 criteria. It is for the betterment of the property for the city and the neighborhood. And it's a much better option than tearing it down and building something that would really not fit that neighborhood. So, simple and easy, you did a good job, I vote in favor.
Richard Patterson?
I agree with Tom. I have nothing to add. It's a pretty simple case.
Michael Richmond?
I agree with the other two board members. I think it's a fairly de minimis case. I don't think it has any detriment to the neighborhood. No one came here to oppose it, so I'm going to approve it.
Stephen Giesecke?
I agree with the other board members. I feel that it's a nice improvement, and it's better than tearing down a new house, than adding a new house. I approve.
Margaret Gubernalty?
Yeah, I think we're creating a nicer house with a minor improvement that aesthetically will look nicer on the street. I see no negative impact to the neighbors or municipal land use law, and I approve.
John Pitts?
Yeah, I have nothing to add. All the other board members have stated their comments, so I approve.
Jim Galantino?
Save another house from tearing it down and building a huge one. Just for that alone, I approve the application.
Andrew Campbell?
I like the fact that you're not going to make the roof bigger, so it's going to appear as a bigger house if you did. And with that, I approve the project.
Craig Palmisano?
You're updating an existing home, which is a very big, good benefit to the neighborhood. You could raise the roof, which we're happy you didn't. And I like taking the chimney out too, because I don't think that third car would have gotten in that driveway with that chimney back there. So it benefits that third car in the driveway for the extra bedrooms. I approve.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you again for allowing us to move up on the agenda.
Thank you. Okay, our next case is Michael and Mandy Dorfman, 206 North Brunswick Drive, Block 502.04, Lot 39.01, located in the S30 zoning district, seeking C variance relief for minimum lot area, minimum lot width, maximum floor, and potentially others in order to construct a new single-family home current on taxes, water, and sewer payments, proof of advertising and notification provided, represented by Eric Goldston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. The report is based, I wasn't going to do a report on this, but there was another variance that was identified that I wanted to bring to the board's attention. Eric and I did discuss it today. So this is the application of Michael and Manny Dorfman, 206 North Brunswick Drive, Block 502.04, Lot 39.01, located in S30 zoning district, firm elevation 8. Hardship variance and substantial benefit variance. The applicant is seeking relief from the ordinances of the City of Margate in order to construct a new house that is to be proposed to have 2.5 stories over parking, which is not permitted on lots less than 40 feet wide, and this lot is 39.76 feet. Also, a rear-facing third-floor deck is proposed and is not permitted by ordinance. All other zoning requirements are being met. So it's basically a by right application except for the lot width and the 2.5 stories and the third floor deck facing the rear yard. So they are the two variances being sought tonight, and I will turn it over to the applicant at this time.
Thank you, Mr. McLaurin. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Eric Goldstein on behalf of the applicants. With me to my left is Mr. Robert Lolio, who will be giving architecture testimony, but I do have a fairly long dissertation with regard to what we're here for tonight and why we believe that this case is just now a variance based upon the governing body's change of the zoning code to fall under either the C1 or C2 criteria, all of which is fairly important based upon what I'm about to tell you. So right now we've got a lot that the City of Margate created by way of a subdivision in 2007. Back in 2007, the subject lot and two others were two lots that were both oversized but not enough to make three conforming lots. Mr. Barnhart, who's here in the back and has nothing to do with this application, actually created these lots with Mr. Ponzio September of 2007. So what the city approved in 2007 are three 39.76-foot lots. It could have created two 40s and a 39.25, but it directed the applicant at the time, who is not the client and applicant tonight, the developer, to split all three of these lots equal. So when we talk about hardships and self-created hardships, this is a hardship that was put on three lots by the City of Margate Planning Board. Once these lots were created, all of them were deficient by 2.8 inches, including the applicant's lot that we're here for tonight. So to begin with, we've got lots that were created by way of prior application to this board. The lots could have been set up any number of ways, but the city in the minutes of the meeting directed them to be equal, all three of them. So the applicants have and have had since they bought the house that is built on the lot 2.8 inches shy of what would be a 40-foot wide lot. The difference on a percentage basis is 0.6 of 1%. So when we talk about what constitutes a hardship, this lot is undersized literally by the length of a finger and is not able, based on the recent change of the city's code, to have a 2.5-story house built on it if it's over parking. They could build a 2.5-story house if it's over a crawl space, which would be 6 feet high off the ground. They could build a 30-foot high house over parking if there wasn't a third story. But in order to get the third story, they need a variance, okay? Mr. Manos, I think I'm saying all this correctly, but I want to double check with you, because this is fairly important as to how the case goes in.
Yeah, I mean, everything you're saying is,
Okay.
I don't know the history with subdivision. I'll take your word for that.
I
As
can
far
pass that around
as far as the law, you're correct.
Okay. So this is the first case that the board is hearing after passage of the law back in 2023. And oftentimes we hear the board members say, well, if we give them this, then someone's going to want more, and someone's going to want more, and it's going to set a precedent. It doesn't. And with respect to all of you, at some point, each of you have said, well, we don't want to open the floodgates and set a precedent. It does not set a precedent, okay? And I'm going to read to you from the State of New Jersey Municipal Land Use Law, okay? The granting of a variance to one property owner does not create a precedent for the granting of a variance to another property owner. Each variance must stand or fall on its own peculiar factual circumstances. Leo, the case is Cole v. Mayor and Council of Fair Lawn, 50 NJ 268. It's a New Jersey Supreme Court case. Cox book goes on to say, cases involving different factual situations are not at all similar and are distinguishable. So whatever the board chooses to do tonight, don't say, please, that this creates a precedent or it opens the floodgate for other cases. Legally, it does not. That's a reason that you get sometimes concerned that other applicants will bring a case. The New Jersey Municipal Land Use Law and all the cases that follow it clearly state there are no precedents set by what you're doing. And in fact, this board just a few months ago granted a flat roof house on the beach, and several of the board members said, what we're doing tonight does not create a precedent. So please recall those words, because this is the first case that you're hearing after the new law passed. And I would venture to say that based upon the neighborhood development patterns of this street, which is 80 feet wide, Brunswick is the widest street in Margate. From one side of the property line where the applicant's property is to the other side where the other property is, it's 80 feet. That's on the subdivision plan filed back in 2007, okay? If this lot were 2.8 inches wide, if the Margate Planning Board back in 2007 made them do 40, 40, and 39.4, we wouldn't be here for variance, because they would own one of the lots that would be 40 feet wide. But it was the action of your predecessors that created this situation. Additionally, a lot of times we talk about hardships and what constitutes a hardship. There are a lot of types of hardships. What we get a lot before this board are self-created hardships. People do something wrong, then they come in and beg for forgiveness, and this board says all the time, well, you created this problem. Can't have you coming back now and asking for a variance on something you've created. In this instance, the applicants tonight did not create this hardship. It wasn't even the people they bought the house from, it was their predecessor. So these lots have existed since 2007. The developer went in, got the subdivision, flipped it to a builder who built the current house that's on the lot. The 3 lots that were created presently all have 2.5-story homes. They're just not built over parking. So at some point, those homes were, they came in either for variances or for by right construction. And each of the homes that exist now are 2.5 stories. Again, if the applicants wanted to build 2.5 stories over a foundation, same number of bedrooms that are being proposed now, they could do that without a variance. Likewise, if they wanted to build 30 feet with 2 very grand floors, a big first floor and a big second floor, they could do that without a variance. The triggering of the variance is that it's not height, but it's rather the number of stories that go into the house. And that was done back in, with Ordinance 10 of 2023, which passed back in July of 2023. So what we have is, in this instance, I'm going to put Bob on and talk about the house for a second, an ordinance that was created by the governing body applying to a lot that was created by the planning board, and now the governing body's action of changing its requirement for 2.5 stories and the planning board's action of directing these lots to be created 2.8 inches short puts the applicants in the situation they're in now, okay? We talk a lot about this issue of the neighborhood development pattern. If you go down Brunswick, which is the widest street in town, there isn't a parking problem, so this problem of having 2.8 inches less than is required doesn't trigger an issue where all of a sudden we're losing parking. The exact amount of parking that exists for the houses today with the 2.5-story house will exist if the board grants this variance. The lots are generally pretty big and the homes are generally pretty big. It's a street where there isn't a lot of crammed-in development. This is a neighborhood in town that's been developed with a lot of thought, the way the lots have been laid out, maybe with the exception of what the board did 17 years ago, a lot of thought. But the neighborhood development pattern is such that the homes aren't right on top of each other. And again, the three homes that are on these three lots are each 2.5 stories. What the applicant is proposing is for another 2.5-story house on the lot to replace what's there now. It's just going to be over parking. Having said that, Bob, I do want to walk through the architecture and what you've designed. Roger had pointed out that everything you've done meets or exceeds the requirements in the code, with the exception of the rearward-facing deck and the fact that we're kind of bound by something we can't control, which is that the lot is 2.8 inches short. Now, also, just to let everybody know, there's no way to get additional land for these lots. The lot directly next door to the left is exactly 40 feet wide, and these three lots are all the same size. So there are situations when we have an undersized lot and we talk about how we can get those lots to comply. In this case, we can't even get those lots to comply. So with all due respect, again, to your predecessor from '07, we're not quite sure why they would want this configuration, but this is what they gave us and what we're working with. Applicants are not responsible for what's there now. Additionally, when Bob walks us through, we do believe this can satisfy both the C1 and the C2 criteria. Under the C1 criteria, it's a hardship. It's an irregular sized lot. One would venture to guess there's probably no more irregular sized lots than lots that are rectangular. They meet all the other requirements, except for some reason, prior board wanted it to be 2.8 inches short. We don't know why, but that is the true definition of a hardship. Additionally, we talk about what...
Eric,
Yeah.
wouldn't that apply to any lot that's left less than 40 feet? So that would basically make our new rules meaningless.
With regard to what?
Every lot less than 40 feet.
I don't understand the question.
You're saying what you're arguing for this lot seems to me would apply to any lot less than 30 feet, 40 feet, which would make our rules moot.
No. This is unique because if you had a 30-foot wide lot and 40 is required,
Right.
it's not a de minimis hardship. Here what we're talking about is
Okay.
a distance where every case stands on its own. Yeah, any lot less than 40 in and of itself creates a hardship. But does it create a hardship that allows a variance because the hardship is basically a de minimis change to the zoning code?
So you're distinguishing this lot
Right.
for its 2 inches,
Correct.
not just the fact that
Right,
it's...
there are a number of lots in town that are 25 feet wide.
Right.
So you couldn't take a 25-foot wide lot and say, well, this is a hardship under this ordinance.
Right.
Because it's 15 feet difference.
So your hardship is the 2 inches.
2.8 inches over 480 inches of width. We don't know how it happened. We couldn't control that. We bought the house. It's been there. And by the way, had the governing body not made this change, we're not even here. We're building this exact same house because it was a buildable lot of record. It remains a buildable lot of record. And a hardship would be more along the lines of you're this close to having it be 40, but on such a de minimis change, 0.6 of 1%, that is a very, very unique situation with regard to this lot. If it were, use 10, if it were 30, you couldn't get the benefit of building a 2.5-story house, because also, in the legislative history and your discussion of why you're doing this board said, we want to stop the homes that look like they're squeezed into the lot. Back when you were discussing this, when it was a review of the governing body's ordinance, at the meeting you said, we're trying to stop lots from having too much house on them. So in that scenario, if the lot had 2.8 inches more, this isn't an issue. So I would put it to all of you, is the lack of 2.8 inches going to be noticeable difference if you build a 2.5-story house on a lot which is on the widest street in Margate with maybe some of the least development in Margate. So the hardship is all of those factors taken together satisfies, and I do want to read into the record a little bit about the hardship because it sounds like that perhaps may or may not be an issue here. But here's the burden of proof for the hardship, okay? Is there a showing of peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties and undue hardship upon an applicant arising out of, A, the exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property. Again, I would say this is exactly the type of case that the law was written for. It's 2.8 inches short of a lot that we wouldn't have to be here for. The Cox case goes on, the Cox book goes on to say, under the municipal land use law, applications for a de minimis hardship under A, which is the C1 standard, involve properties which are too narrow in the setback cannot be met. So this is just barely too narrow for the setback to be met. So I'm going to turn it over to Bob, unless the board has any questions about the legal aspect, and I'm going to get into this a little bit more as we go on, because, again, based upon the neighborhood development pattern, the definition of a hardship and the fact that this is 0.6 of, it's not even 1%, it's 0.6 of 1%, it's 2.8 inches where 480 inches are necessary, and it's not a self-created hardship. So with that, Bob, I'll turn it over.
I did want to say something, because first of all, a lot of the lots that are undersized now have been undersized for 100 years. You go to Jefferson Avenue, or, there's a couple areas in Margate, but, that's it, just for a long time. This was created by the city in 2007?
Correct.
Yeah, so, I think it's not apples, I think that was a mistake by the city.
It might have been, Mr. Rich. I don't think this board would do that.
No.
But this is what we're dealing with, So I get it, but if the city had done 40-40, and look, that mistake is unfortunately
Right.
binding the current owners who bought the lot from the developer. So this isn't a problem that the clients created. They, were buying at that time a lot that you could do this with.
Right.
And then, of course, it won't be an issue now unless the governing body changed the rule less than a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. So, yeah, there are lots that were created, and no one knows how they were 100 years ago.
Yeah.
This, someone felt it was appropriate in September of 2007. The case was actually before the board in August of 2007 to direct all three of these to be equal width. And I think if we brought this case into this board, you'd either deny it wholeheartedly or say, only create one undersized lot, not three. But this is what we've got now. So.
I have another question for Robert. What is I don't see the height of the first floor. I mean, I see it's like 9 feet, over the curb.
have that.
Bob, let me just get you sworn in. Just give us your name and business address for the record.
It's Robert Lolio, 219 Bellevue Avenue, Hamilton, New Jersey.
And please raise your right hand. You swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
And you've been before our board numerous times as an architect. Will accept his credentials?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Hey, Bob, real quick, can you go around the plan, because we don't have a mic tonight?
There's a mic lit up. So the grades, I have the grade information now. Our first floor will be set at elevation 16. Minimum
16 or 15?
16 feet above
Right.
sea level. The minimum floor height is elevation 12. If it was, so it's a 4-foot difference between parking underneath the house and having it at
Right.
the minimum floor elevation.
Right, and like we said in a couple cases previously, that, from what I understand, Roger, that states, or is it the state or the whole government?
State.
State is thinking of raising the actual flood height to 16.
Right. It's always going to go up.
It's insane, but they're talking about doing it, so.
I think the point of the ordinance was to make the houses on these smaller lots feel smaller, but once everything's raised,
Right,
it's going to be at the same elevation
right.
as
It may,
a
we
future
talked about
standard.
this before, it may ultimately need another change by the governing body, because what happens is the city and the planning board are trying to limit the volume of a house. But if the DEP, NJDEP, forces you to go higher, then what you're doing is trying to stop the DEP from making the homes appear even bigger. If we have to go up 1 or 2 more feet, the homes that are being approved now are non-compliant, and then ultimately, if you have to go up further, you're going to have more volume of the house on a lot that you're trying to stop.
Right.
And there's nothing we can do about that. I mean, this one's, we're lucky to get in when we are because no one wants to have 20 steps going up to their house. But that's where we're headed.
Right. Go ahead.
The other thing I wanted to point out is that their base flood is elevation 8, which is one of the lowest. If their base flood was 10 or 11, we wouldn't even be here because we'd automatically have parking underneath. And their ground level is at elevation 7. Sometimes you're at 5.4.
Right.
You could fit a garage without, it all depends on the site conditions and the base flood elevation,
Right.
is how you set everything.
So that is high for Margate, right?
Yes.
7? Yeah, okay.
Like some points of Margate and Long Park, they're at 4.55.
Right.
You're gaining 2.5 feet underneath the house already. And then with the lower base flood elevation, it really was restricting us, but it's site specific.
All right, so Bob, you obviously know what we're doing. Heard us talk a lot, but we've been working on this for a while. So walk us through the house itself, especially all of the other conforming aspects, and not that we would, even if you did the percentages for house width, the width would be based on 40 versus 39.76. I'm not sure with your side setbacks how much that would vary, but walk us through that, everything else conforming.
Well, I based the setbacks off of 39.76. So everything's conforming. It's a proposed 2.5-story house over parking. The overall square footage is only 2,384 square feet. Third floor, as I have it drawn, is 454 square feet, which is 49.4% of the floor below, so we're under the 50%. The differences between a 1- and 2-story dwelling is we have 2 bedrooms on the 3rd floor. You make it a 2-story house, we're down to 3 bedrooms.
And if you did a 2.5-story house over not parking, how many bedrooms would you have?
For non-parking, it would be the same house, just dropped 3.5, 4 feet.
And they would have to have a garage detached to park in,
We would have to have a detached garage,
which would cover more of the lot, which would cause more of a drainage issue,
which
correct?
it would be an issue because of the narrowness of the lot and getting enough parking down the sideway. The old houses used to have like 9, 10 feet on the side. You couldn't really open a door in that driveway if you put a fence up. So the new standard with parking underneath really helps parking. It's a benefit to all the homeowners.
And the house that's there now, and the house on both sides, they're all 2.5 stories, just over a foundation, correct?
Correct. And they're probably at a lower elevation than what's required, I would think.
Yeah, they were built in 07 and 08, I'm sure they are.
They're probably 2 feet lower. They're probably built at elevation 10. And the 3rd floor deck variance, the clients wanted to do a deck in the rear because of views, but I tried to meet the standard with tucking it under a pent roof, so looking at it from a neighbor, you really wouldn't even notice it. It just looks like a roof line and a low wall. So the deck is kind of a well deck, which it meets all the requirements of being in the front. It just happens to be in the rear yard. And the difference in the lot width, like Eric mentioned, is only 2.8 feet, which is
8 inches.
2.8 inches, which is less than 3 inches.
And the total lot area you're under is 18 square feet.
I almost messed that one up.
Bob, in your professional opinion, do you think the fact that the house is 2.8 inches less than 40 feet, anyone could possibly know the difference between what could be built if the house were 40 feet wide versus 2.8, or is that number such a de minimis difference between what's required that it would be basically considered something that would be unnoticeable?
It would be unnoticeable. I wouldn't even be able to tell the difference in the volume. Like if we parked under the house and built the same house without the 3rd floor, it would be the same volume and size overall. It just wouldn't have a couple dormers sticking out of the roof line.
The house would still be 30 feet over the base flood, over the parking, 9 feet plus the house above.
Correct.
So the height of the house, if this lot were to have a 2-story house built on it, would be the exact same height.
Correct.
So it wouldn't be any shorter if we don't get the variance. The height is exactly the same. It's just 2 stories instead of 2.5.
Less
Correct.
bedroom.
What?
Less bedroom.
Less
But if
bedrooms.
we did 2.5 over
No, I
a
understand.
foundation,
Right.
same amount of bedroom. That's why the ordinance is okay, but it's not great, because it doesn't make a real it doesn't give back anything in exchange for doing a smaller, if you did the house over, for example, over a foundation, it's 2.5 stories over the foundation, and then you build a detached parking area, so you cover more of the lot. It kind of is counterintuitive to what would get built there. We want to make the lots have less home to show less volume, not to push it down and then have additional need for parking. So, although it's admirable, I think this does need to be refined a little bit, because it doesn't really accomplish everything that the city and the board want. And it might have to be changed anyway soon if DEP raises up the minimum base flood elevation, where the architects have to start designing from.
So, yeah, this was the first thing we discussed when they came in. They came in with a lot that was just under 40 feet. And I'm like, you can only build 2 stories over parking, or you can do 2.5 stories over crawl space. And my recommendation to all my clients is to build it up, because the flood elevation is only going up. So for 2.8 inches, that's why we're here tonight. We thought it was worth a shot to get the floor up as high as possible.
Bob, based upon your professional licensure and your being an expert in the field and have testified many times before this board, do you find this to be what we would call a de minimis exception to the city of Margate's zoning rules?
Yes.
And would you say that there is any negative associated with this if the board would grant this to be 2.5 instead of 2 stories over parking?
I don't see any negative impacts, any influences on the neighbors. The open air light would pretty much be identical.
And to the extent someone could conceive this as being a negative, with the positives of, as you said, getting the house even further out of harm's way, making sure that the light, air, and open space is maintained, and having the deck tucked in the back with the pen roof, would those positives greatly outweigh any negatives that could be associated with this?
Yes.
If the board would grant it, okay. So I have no more questions for Mr. Lolio. If the board has questions, we can certainly ask. I do have some more law that I want to get into, but maybe wait until the board has some discussion or have any other questions.
So there's 4 bedrooms? Is that correct?
4 bedrooms and a loft on the.
Right, but there's 3 parking spots.
Correct.
Right, so theoretically, if it was 5 bedrooms, you only need 3 parking spots, correct?
It could be a 5-bedroom house.
Right. Okay.
We're over parked, we're over parked.
Right. Anyone else from the board? Excuse, what was that? Okay. Anyone from the public like to speak?
Just give us a name and address, and I'll swear you in.
Yeah, sure. My name is Jack Brode. I live at 209 South Clarendon, which is the house that backs up to the Dorfmans. About 2/3 of their house,
Okay.
their lot overlaps with the back of my lot on Clarendon.
209 North, then, right?
209 North Clarendon.
Okay, and just please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thanks.
I just want to say, first off, that we've lived in Margate now since 2010. We also bought new construction on that lot. We've gotten to know the Dorfmans over the years. They're very good neighbors. I really appreciate what this board has done with respect to the smaller lots and limiting the volume of houses. I think that's the right direction for Margate for what it's worth. So thanks for that. In this situation, we came, my wife and Eileen, to express our support for what's being requested. I think the attorney, Eric Goldstein, made a pretty compelling case. This goes back to a unique thing that happened with a prior board in 2007. We're talking about fractions of an inch. On top of that, the fact that the footprint of the home is not going to be materially different in any way, as a neighbor, therefore, I have no concern whatsoever. And the other factor that I think supports this, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that specific street, the 200 North Block, but it is really unique for Margate. It's really wide. There's plenty of parking. It's probably the least dense street that could exist throughout all of Margate, except perhaps, some that are back by the bay. So I think all those factors and the case that Eric Goldstein made out, I think aligns with what alleviates any concern that we could possibly have as a neighbor, and we're in full support. So appreciate the board's consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Hal Bashevsky, 206A North Brunswick Drive. I live...
You swear to tell the truth?
Do you? Yes, I do. Do you?
Always.
So I live facing the houses. I'm just to the right. I'm part of the construction where there were 2 homes or 2 lots made into 3. We're talking 2.8 inches. Not talking practice, we're talking 2.8 inches. Not going to affect me. I'm in full support. I've been their neighbors since 2010. They're great neighbors. I also support them having a much bigger, higher house. God forbid the bay meets the ocean, I have a place to go. And also with the garage, I have a kayak and a bike that they don't know it yet, but I'm going to use the garage. But either way, I do totally support them. I support the house. It's not going to affect my life in any way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, name and address?
Michael Starker, 208 North Brunswick Drive. So my wife and Anne Marie, we are one of the original owners of on the street.
Swear to tell the truth?
That's what I do. Thank you. We're one of the original owners. We've been here 19 years. We were here through the development of when the houses got torn down and they put the 3 houses up. Our house is still an original 1940 Cape Cod. We love it. We love what all the neighbors have done here. We're just here in support of the Dorfmans. They're fantastic neighbors, and we love the development that's been going on in Margate. I know some of it's a little bit overblown, but we support them totally in what they want to do with their house. It's a couple inches. It's a great street, as we talked about, and whatever they want to do and whatever you agree upon, we'd be really thrilled for them. So I just want to say thank you for all you do, and we're just here in support for our neighbors, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Okay, public portion is closed. Any other board members?
I have a few comments. So, Mr. Goldstein, you are really, really a good attorney.
Thank you.
You've got everybody here convinced on a board that I was on that we caused the variance because the builder came in and said, I want 2 40-foot lots and 1 30-some-foot lot. That's not true. The board granted a variance to a builder who reasonably came in, tried to improve a property, okay, and had a plan. And what we try not to do back then, and a lot of it got away from us in the middle, and now we're going back, is we don't try to fool with a builder's plan. It was reasonable, okay? Number 2, I'm not against you, but number 2, you're arguing about elevating a house. The reason we elevate houses and we pass this ordinance was what? To create parking underneath. And your whole case is, well, we don't need parking underneath. Plenty of parking on the street, wide street. It does not make sense, okay? You're putting it back on us, which is wrong. You're asking for parking. You're not even mentioning a 3rd-floor deck, which shouldn't be there and should be removed, okay? And then you have a whole enclosed 1st floor. We're moving towards getting rid of enclosed 1st floors and only having half enclosed, which maybe you should consider doing here. But do a case based on the merits and on the inches and not try to blame. You see attorneys in courts, oh, well, it's the defendant that did it. Come on. That's insulting to me.
I'm sorry you feel that way, Mr. Collins, but the lot was not created by the applicants. Whatever happened in 2000,
Wasn't created by the board either.
but the board had let it happen. It wasn't created by us. You know, you could say someone had to grant us approval.
So basically, if we grant this approval, we're affirming a non-conforming lot. And we're making it worse non-conforming, so we should turn it down because we
No,
should.
that's not
Well,
correct
that's
at
what
all.
you're saying.
You're not confirming a non-conforming lot. The lot exists. We're not asking for anything
And we're
to,
expanding it.
you're not expanding on the lot. You're not expanding on the lot at all. The lot will be the same size unless the neighbors buy a portion of it or they sell a portion of it forever. What you're doing is you're allowing the owners of the property who didn't create this, whether it was the board, but the board didn't allow this to happen back in '07, whether it was the board or the developer, however you set it up back then, in '07, this lot was created. What you're doing now is you're acknowledging that the lot is too small, which it is by 2.8 inches, which again, we believe to be a de minimis change, and you're letting someone who's owned the lot through a number of zoning changes use the lot as it existed back in 2023. If we were here a year ago, well, we wouldn't have been here a year ago, because it wouldn't have been a variance. So, since the Dorfmans owned the property, they bought it following the subdivision, they were then told, you can't do with your lot what you could have done for the past 17 years, because the governing body made a change based on the board's recommendation. So they're faultless in all of this. If you have to assign a blame to someone, whether it's the old board, whether it's the governing body, whether it's the developer, the people who have had zero contributing towards this hardship are the Dorfmans. They're just trying to use their lot as they could have done for 17 years up until last July. Additionally, with regard to what the board might be pushing by way of a direction of new development, it's not the law today. So Bob can only design what is legal today. If the board's moving towards opening an area up or doing something else with a design, that's legitimate, but as we stand here today, we do need two variances, you're right. We have a variance for, and I would like just to take a second and discuss that with the clients, with regard to both, if you don't mind, Mr. Collins, the rear third floor deck, because that is something which we know is a bit of an issue. So, can we take a minute on that,
Sure,
Mr. Chairman?
absolutely.
Yeah.
What?
I think so, don't you? Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Sorry about that. So just by way of listening to Mr. Collins' comments, and Bob, we talked about this. We're going to take the third floor rear deck off. What happened was, when Bob was designing it, when the third floor decks became by right, he didn't know if it could go on either the front or the back and put it on the back. So it's not going to be on the plan at all. So that's going to be a revision. So the only variance we're looking for, not the rear third floor deck, but just the 2.8 inches. Correct. Whatever we're calling that, whether it's height, and the lot can't get any bigger. So we're looking for relief based upon it being 2.8 inches, which again, going through the neighborhood development pattern, the fact that Brunswick is 80 feet wide, you've heard from the neighbors, the hardship being 0.6%, 0.6 of 1%. It's not a self-created hardship. This is not a precedent-creating issue. So with regard to the board granting this variance, I would say respectfully, because you all have your own opinion, there really isn't a reason to deny it, other than you may not want to grant a variance. But that's why you're here. That's the only reason you're here.
So you're removing the third floor deck?
Yes,
It's not a precedent setting.
correct.
It's just not adhering to the ordinance. And when we have other applicants come forward with 39.25 or a 38.90. Well, you gave it to them for
No,
3
that's
inches.
not, that's incorrect, Mr.
I don't
Palmisano.
know.
That
No,
is
it
100%
happens. It
incorrect.
happens. It happens.
Okay, it does. You
Right.
yourself said with the flat roof case, we are not setting a precedent. And Mr. Patterson said the same. 2 months ago, you had a flat roof case on the beach,
Yeah.
and you said, this does not set a precedent.
Well,
So how does that case not and this one do?
I didn't say it wouldn't set a precedent.
You did, it's exactly what you said. You said, we are not setting a precedent.
I said, we shouldn't be in the design phase.
I'm going to respectfully disagree, but this is, each case rises and falls on its own. And if you're saying you're not going to grant variances because you don't like them, then you shouldn't be on the board. The only reason you're all here is to grant land use applications.
See, not to interrupt you, but we were almost going to go 50 feet on the ordinance to not let houses go for the third floor, 50 feet. And we decided as a board to make it 40 feet. 40 feet was the number we came to.
But that's irrelevant.
That's where we
You
stopped.
could have gone to 30. But for you saying,
Could go under 30, no,
no,
40
but what,
feet.
but you couldn't,
For a massive house on a 40-foot lot, so.
respectfully, okay? It's 2.8 inches. You're, what you're, and it affects no one. The people that it would affect the most are here.
I just made a statement.
I understand that.
And if it was a two-story, it would be the same height,
Exact same height.
exact same.
The volume of the house, it'll look exactly the same. Nothing changes other than there's fewer bedrooms. But we have enough parking anyway. So parking's not an issue. This is one of those quirks. It's a true hardship because it falls into the category of a de minimis change. It's a couple of inches off of 40 feet. And regardless of whether you like granting variances or not, that's what you were appointed to do, to administer the land use law. And you have a case before you that says we have a real hardship not created by the homeowners. I don't see what your reasons for denying this under, you don't want other people to do it. No, but I'm saying that your questions seem to indicate that no one should bring an application. How dare you ask for something? Well, it does happen, but that's why you're here. That's the reason this board exists, to hear cases that come before it based upon changes that may or may not be reasonable. And Roger weeds out a lot of the cases, and a lot of cases that come in, we say we're not going to bring it to the board because we know it's going to get denied. But if you're saying we're not going to give you any relief ever because the rule is the rule, that's kind of against the law.
Everyone's on its own merit.
Okay, well, on the merits of this case, you've got the neighbors in support, you've got a non-neighbor created issue, you've got no self-created hardship, you've got testimony, the only testimony from the architect saying this is a benefit, there's no detriment, nobody's against it. I would again venture to say that you must grant this application because there's no reason not to grant it. Every factor under the land use law was met. Not granting it, standing on principle of something, it's just incorrect, and that's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to administer the law as each case comes in. Again, it's not a precedent. It's not a precedent at all for future cases. So, I don't want to keep going back and forth, but this is a very clear case. It's 2 inches, 2.8 inches off of 40 feet, and I don't think there will ever be a case that's fitting into these exact same categories to meet the land use law.
Well, the two lots next to it.
But they're not the same, because one, they are, but you don't know what the house design is gonna look like, you don't know at that time what FEMA's rules are gonna be, so this is a unique case taken literally in a snapshot in time. So,
You forgot to mention that you also deleted the other variance for the third floor rear deck.
correct, it's
Right.
just,
So we're talking about 2.8 inches.
correct.
And every case stands on its own merits. And all the neighbors are here in support of it. Well, not all the neighbors, but there's 3 sets of neighbors that are here in support of it. And yeah,
That's correct, Mr. Chairman, I don't know what to put on the record here.
right. And you know what, it's not a big house. It's just, how many square feet is the house?
It's like 2,300.
Right. And I think Mr.
I haven't really designed any houses that much, any smaller than that.
Right.
Only if you want to hear me talk more. I'm rested.
So I want to put on the record that by right, they can put a third floor deck in the front of the house. So if they come in with plans that, and they meet the criteria, I would approve it. Okay, I don't want people driving by, I had third floor decks there. We get that.
Okay, anyone else? You have anything? Nope. Yeah.
Okay, it's a C variance application, it's just the one variance now. They're requesting 2.5 stories over parking on this lot that's 2.8 inches short that would permit that. They're eliminating that third floor deck in the rear. The conditions will just be the standard conditions, anything in Mr. McLaren's report unless otherwise addressed, subject to any outside approvals that may be necessary. Any representations will be followed. And you'll give Jimmy his non-conversion agreement,
Yes.
and that's it.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Tom Collins?
So, even though I didn't agree with your presentation, the basic bottom line here is this. Does it meet the C1 hardship variance? And the answer is yes. Your lot is undersized. Doesn't matter how it got undersized. It's undersized. Okay? The other criterion, C2, is there a substantial benefit? And the answer to that is yes. It's going to make a major improvement to the neighborhood. The neighbors are all in favor of it. And I think they're going to do a nice job, and they seem like nice people that'll make a nice place and keep the neighborhood nice and quaint. So it's real simple and easy. I vote in favor.
Thank you.
Richard Patterson?
I really don't like cases with it's close but no cigar. I mean, we have 6-foot setback for pools, it's not close to 6 foot. But this case, how can you turn it down when if we turn it down, I mean, if we turn it down and it's billed at the not raised level, then it's non-compliant next year. So I say with it, as small as it is, and to make it compliant in the future and not just for a year, I approve the application.
Michael Richmond?
Yeah, I'm going to approve the application. Again, I appreciate the homeowners getting rid of the third floor rear deck. I didn't have a problem with it, but, I just think it helped the situation, and I'm going to approve it.
Stephen Giesecke?
Too late. I think, if I'm reading Craig, I think if I'm reading you correctly, that, we're having these houses set so to keep them limited in size and not go up. You have me convinced that there's not going to be any real change, whether it would be 2 or 2.5. Well, at this point, for this time, I will approve the application.
Margaret Gubernolty?
I don't believe this sets a precedent. I understand our new ordinance and the shorter than 40-foot width of the lot. But each case stands on its own merit. The homeowners came here for a variance, and that's what we are here for. It's 2.8 inches. It's a beautiful design. The neighbors are happy with it. It is a very wide street, and during the storm today, there wasn't an inch of water on the street, and I think there was much ado about nothing, as William Shakespeare said. But I approve the application, and good luck to you.
John Pitts?
Yeah, I think this is clearly a hardship, considering what is coming down the road for building elevations. I think, getting this property and getting it as high as we can, as soon as we can is helpful. I approve.
Jim Galantino?
Where else is the doc going to keep his kayak? I mean, you can't put it in a tree just for that Just for that alone, I mean, that should pass the application. I approve.
Andrew Campbell.
Eric, I think you're a great lawyer. Yeah. You did a really nice job and researched this, and my hat's off to you on that. And I also appreciate having neighbors come in and your support. It's really nice to see. I approve.
Craig Palmisano.
Yeah, the neighbors coming in, improving it, that's big, being there in the neighborhood for a long time. Because all those houses are one size, and now they're changing. They're all changing. I saw two on, I think it's Barclay that are raised, but none on Brunswick yet, right? No, you're gonna have one here though, but, I agree with Mr. Patterson, I also approve this.
Motion carries 9 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
All right.
Do we want to take a break? Yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute break. 5. Oh, yeah. Will I say that? Okay. Okay, we're going to go back in session, and Mike Ruffew is here. So he's going to join us. Okay, our next case is Daniel Bierig, 213 North Thurlow Avenue, Block 420, Lot 4, located in the S25 zoning district, seeking C variance relief for combined yard, side yard setback, and potentially others in order to construct a second-floor addition on the existing single-family rancher. Current on taxes, water and sewer payments, proof of advertising, and notifications provided, represented by Christopher Balanson.
I'll lead off on this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. The application is of Daniel Bierig, 213 North Thurlow Avenue, Block 420, Lot 4, located in S25 zoning district, elevation 9, effective term. The background is as follows. The applicant is seeking relief in order to add a second-floor addition that meets the existing setbacks and adds the building coverage but does not exceed allowable building coverage. An elevation flood certificate will be required prior to permits being issued. Actually, they need a side yard setback variance to the one side and a combined side yard setback variance, as shown on chart on page 2. Documents reviewed. The variances as follows. Minimum side yard setback on the right side, whereas the minimum side yard setback is 8 feet based on the lot width. 7.6 feet exists and 7.6 feet is proposed. Again, they're going up, so they're expanding a non-conforming setback. Likewise, with the minimum side yard setback for the combined side yard, whereas the minimum combined side yard setback is 19.98 feet, I would round up to 20. 7.7 feet exists and 7.7 feet is proposed. Again, that's because of the upward expansion, it's an expansion of non-conforming setback. Again, the side yard setback is measured to the attached garage. Once the garage is attached to the principal structure, it becomes subject to all the requirements of setbacks and building coverage. I'm not going to go through all the other comments at this time. I'll give the applicant a chance to respond to the comments verbally.
Thank you, Mr. McLaren. Members of the board, hi. My name is Chris Balanson. I represent Dan Bierig with respect to his property at 213 North Thurlow Avenue, Lot 4 and Block 420 in the S25 zoning district. As it's a relatively straightforward case, Mr. Bierig seeks to build a traditional second floor versus a kind of a Cape-style second floor, where currently there are 2 bedrooms in that up there. So it's a 4-bedroom house now. It's going to build a second floor on the existing footprint and convert it to a 3-bedroom house. Going from 4 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms. No further encroachments anywhere. The hardship, I'll say, the problem is one of the setbacks doesn't conform. It's 7.6 versus 8. I can't go into Eric's whole spiel about a relatively minor deviation, but it's a relatively minor deviation that he can't do anything about. I think we all recognize that it's a better construction product if it goes up in the same footprint and the same foundation on the same walls rather than trying to step it in. And that's really the case. Coverage does increase, but still coverage is in the 20s, like 22, 23, 24% versus 30 that's allowed. Coverage is still low. It's a well-located, situated house because there are two brand-new three-story homes on each side of it, and fortunately, they have the 8-foot side yard on each side of those, so you have nice separation. Tom did the plan and walk us through it? Yes. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Baglivo, just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Tom Baglivo, 472 Norristown Road, Bluebell, PA, 99422.
And please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
And I assume, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Baglivo's...
It's Tom Baglivo. Accept his credentials?
Yeah. Tom.
That's a running joke.
Tom, if you would, take the board through the existing conditions of the property, what it is that you were asked to do and what you...
Yes, I will. I don't have drawings of the existing conditions. However, it's a 4-bedroom home, actually on my block. So I support.
We all do that in my block, my beach. Go to my beach.
So it's a cape on the 200 block of Thurlow. There's 2 bedrooms on the first floor. There are 2 bedrooms inside the roof of the Cape Cod. And what we want to do is take off the roof, go up a full floor, and just move up an attic and just maintain the same structure for the most part.
You're going from 4 bedrooms, Tom, to 3 bedrooms?
Yes, 4 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms, and we're not changing the parking scenario at all. We're not reducing parking. We're leaving the parking on the side. And aesthetically, the right side, we just didn't want to bring in the wall.
Why is
6
that?
Well, we didn't want to bring it in 6 inches. We wanted all the bearing points to be the same, and also aesthetically, it would look better not jogging in on the right side.
Hey, Chris, I don't want to interrupt you. I think we said it, but prior to your application starting, Mike Ruffey's here, he's present. I don't know if we said that.
Thank you.
We did say that. Okay, I'm sorry.
Tom, as a result of the existing footprint that you're going to use, a variance is implicated because of the existing setbacks?
Correct.
Would you walk us through that, please?
Yeah, the existing setbacks on the right-hand side, this wall is currently there. We'd like to set the second floor wall on top of it.
When you say there, what does that mean? That doesn't get picked up on the recording.
I'm sorry. The right-hand wall, beach side, is at approximately 7.5 feet off the property line. We'd like to keep that wall exactly where it is. We'd like to maintain the front roof the way it is. If we were to conform, our second floor would jog in here and be asymmetrical. And it just makes the most sense to go straight up. And again, this front roof will stay, a new roof will be installed, and the bedrooms will go all on the second floor. And again, there were 2 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms above. We're gonna have 3 bedrooms total. And on the site, we're leaving 2 parking spots right where they are on the left-hand side.
That deficient setback, as well as the one on the left side, results in a combined side yard setback variance of, again, 7.7
Yes.
versus about 20 feet that's required. That's a function, I think you'll say, of the garage being just about on the property line.
Yeah, the garage is just about on the property line, and the garage is attached.
So what is the distance to the principal structure, moving the seeable, or the actual setback on that side absent the garage?
12, 1 1/4.
So you're at 19 and change, almost with
Yes.
what's required?
Yes,
19.98 versus about
correct.
19.5,
19 point, yeah, 5,
something like that?
6,
Close?
something like that, yep.
But for the garage?
And right, if we ignored the garage, we're within inches of the required setback.
For a combined side yard?
Yes.
The front yard's not changing, the rear yard's not changing?
Front yard's not changing. The rear yard's changing slightly, but it's not going over the 20% of the lot depth, which is 80 feet and 16. We're maintaining 16 feet.
And that's why coverage increases like 4%
Yes,
to 26% versus 30?
correct.
And height, it's 2 stories, height as well, within 30, I think it's about 28
The height-
feet, 28 change?
From the first floor elevation, height's 28 feet.
And you're comfortable you can get all this done within the substantial improvement guidelines and the flood hazard regulations?
Yes, I do.
Now, with respect to the variance and justification, you find the positive criteria is advanced as a result of maintaining 2 stories and the preservation of light, air, and open space in that regard?
Yes, I do.
Explain that a little bit, please, for the record.
biggest emphasis on this design, if that's going to answer your question, is the living space is small. So he wants to improve more living space on the first floor and put all the bedrooms upstairs.
Just open it up a little bit.
Open up the first floor, as well as there's a 30-plus house on the left and a 30-plus house on the right, like you said before. So he's kind of shadowed by those houses.
So it's a benefit then that this house just stays at 2 stories and maintains the existing setbacks rather than bumping out further in that
Yes.
respect?
And he has no desire for a 3,000 square foot house. He just wants sleeping upstairs and conventional living space on the first floor.
Do you think then variances can be granted without substantial detriment to the public
Yes,
good?
I do.
And without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance?
Yes, agreed.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I do want to point out that the bulk of that affected side yard, combined side yard setback is where it is 19 feet, not the 7.1, 7.7.
I'm sorry?
The combined side yard setback, even though the garage is attached,
Right.
the bulk of it is where it's wider.
That's kind of what I was
Right.
trying to say inartfully.
Yeah, and that's the part we're not actually touching, but I agree.
Almost. It's like 1% you are, but.
Right, yep.
Yeah, point.
I can't drill down that far.
Jimmy, on application, yeah. Because there's improvements up there already, I'm comfortable with it.
So you're gonna have,
Substantial improvement on that.
you had appraisal done already for it?
Yes.
What's the, what's the first floor?
First floor elevation?
First floor currently, or the first floor?
No, the elevation.
I just got them the other day, bear with me. Actually, I don't have it, but I'm gonna say it's about 8.
That's a grade. 7.5 grade. So you're about 10.
Oh, I thought we were 6th grade, it's 7.5?
It's high, Thurlow's high.
Yeah, I'm like 6'5". So if this is 7, then the front is about 9.
Feet off grade, so you're 9, 8, or 10, 3.
I could find out, but I would say it's about 7.
Okay.
You down?
It's 7 and there's 3 steps, there's 2 full steps and a doorstep.
Are you down?
Yeah,
We can meet over there tomorrow.
that's fine, I'm
There's
around.
a pin on the, there's a mark on the pin, 10 foot, right across the street from your house.
Oh, Dan and Patty's house?
The requirement's 10 foot.
Yeah. Take it off.
So the houses on each side are probably 14.
Right.
How many square feet is with the addition, first and second floor?
The current attic is about 800 square feet,
And what's it gonna be?
and the addition's gonna be 30 by 30, so it's 900.
Okay.
And the current bedrooms take up about 40% of the top floor, so we're going from like 450 square feet to maybe
Right, so what's with the addition, what's the total square footage?
1,800. of the whole house.
1,800,
What
okay.
is it?
Approximately,
What is it now?
it's 1,400, because we're adding about 400 square feet
Okay.
to the second floor.
Right.
So it's basically a real Cape Cod, where you go up
Right.
and you just have the 2 bedrooms under the roof.
Okay.
It's not like the gambrel roof or anything, it's just
Right.
bedrooms tucked under the roof.
Okay.
So we're literally not, the box is the same except for this one jog right here,
Right.
just to get a little bit larger bedroom in the back.
Okay.
And the front porch is untouched. Right where it is where it's staying.
So your lot coverage, your building coverage, whatever,
Like 26%?
yeah, 26. And what would be, you would be allowed to have like 33? Is that correct?
35.
35?
Did I get that right?
I think it's 30 on the 63.
I thought it was 35.
On the-
Because
at
it's a
least like-
53.
It's at least
It's a
30.
53 lot. It's a 54 lot.
Well, it says right here, building coverage 33.4 required, and you're gonna be at 26.12. So you're under.
Yes,
Well,
correct.
Right. Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, 33.4, it's right there, I was reading wrong.
right.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm good.
And your FAR is under 5.5, which is low.
So he rested.
Mhm.
I've been resting.
Are you rested? Okay.
I don't think.
All right, anybody from the board?
Yeah, Tom, I'm looking at 217 North Erlo's elevation cert, and it dips down a little bit the street. He's at 6.8 on his average grade, highest average grade.
Okay, and I was thinking about 6.5-ish.
Right, you're right
So
there.
maybe I'm 6.8.
And that's 88 down, by the way.
You're 3 inches short.
Well, they took it from the last meeting.
2.8.
2.8 was out.
Funny.
And then, okay. Anybody else from the
Oh, man, left me short.
board? Anyone from the public? Public portion is closed. Anything else, Chris?
Sir.
Nope, okay.
All right, the board has nothing else. It's 2 C variances. The side yard setback on the right side, 8 feet's the requirement. And they're going up at the 7.6 setback. And then the combined side yard setback, 19.98 is the requirement. And again, they're at about 7.7 is the combined. Those are the 2 variances. The conditions, Roger asked a couple things about street trees and governor strip to be maintained, all that other stuff. Anything in Mr. McLaurin's report, and then just the standard conditions, subject to outside approvals, if any representations made by the applicant, they'll comply with those, and that's it.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Tom Collins,
Talking inches again. No, this is a pretty de minimis, small, modest project. It's well laid out. You did a very nice job. I agree with the lines that you're talking about and keeping the house symmetrical. Makes a big difference. I think the first case Chris Valenson won that I was on, I had him move a line out, if you remember, on the beach block, so it was
Line up.
symmetrical. And so it's fine.
That's the right thing.
That goes, it was the right thing, it goes way back. I think the garage skews because it's attached and it's on the property line, that it just skews all the numbers. So it's really de minimis, and I think it's a great benefit, and we're gonna keep a nice house in the neighborhood, so I vote yes.
Richard Patterson,
I also vote yes. I think it's de minimis. The size of the house, I mean, it's small by today's standards. I just see no negative, so I vote yes.
Michael Richmond,
Yeah, they're actually getting rid of a bedroom. They're pretty well under their coverage. It's a small house, like Rich said, and I'm going to approve it.
Stephen Giesecke,
I agree with the fellow board members. I think it's a good project. I approve.
Michael Ruffey.
I also vote yes on this. I don't see any negatives. It seems like everything's a good project to me. So again, I vote yes on this.
Margaret Gubernalty,
I agree with the other board members. I think it's a modest house and certainly an improvement. What could be built there, I mean, that's a big lot, 54 by 80. So this is a really good project and I approve it.
John Pitts,
Yeah, nothing to add. I approve.
Jim Galantino,
You know, sitting in the Atlantic City Trauma Unit, I missed all you guys so much. I just had to come back. The board really makes my heart full. So, just because of that alone, I got to prove the case.
Craig Palmisano,
Yes, it's between two 40-foot homes, so we're bringing it up to a two-story home with bedrooms upstairs, and I approve also.
the motion carries 9 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Right. Does he know that?
Yeah, we'll put it on. We'll put it on the record once you
Thanks,
introduce.
sir.
Okay.
Yeah. See you, Jimmy.
All right, see you, Jim. Okay, our final case, Jana McCarron, 215 North Decatur Avenue, Block 425, Lot 140, located in the WSD zoning district, seeking preliminary and final site plan approval along with D variance relief for use density and potentially other variances in order to construct a new residential structure. Current on taxes, water and sewer payments, proof of advertising and notifications provided, represented by Christopher Balanson.
All right, and given that there's a D variance, or a couple D variances involved in this application, by law, Mr. Galantino as a city official and Mr. Pitts as the mayor's designee cannot participate. And everyone else can participate, but the vote count will be 7, and we'll need 5 out of 7 affirmative votes.
Save me a spot at the county.
See you, John.
See ya.
You can-
I'm gonna do a brief.
Okay.
Just want to do a brief introductory of this application, describe the variances being identified and sought. The original report is dated June 24th, 2024, in regard to application of Janet McCarron, 215 North Decatur Avenue, Block 425, Lot 140, located in the WSD, or Waterfront Special District, seeking C and D variances, major preliminary and final site plan. So it's deemed complete, and the variances are C1, C2, the D3, which is a conditional use variance. The condition is commercial has to be on the ground floor, residential use is not permitted, so that is condition not being met. And a density variance where they're required to have 19.8 dwelling units per acre, which comes out to 2.97 units, which is 0.03, the magic number 3. Shy to meet the 19.8, so they are at 19.98 dwelling units per acre, triggering the D variance. I mean, you can't get much closer than that than what's required. And again, the applicant did agree to tone it down from 4 units to 3. And again, the conditional use of the commercial or residential use on the ground floor is not permitted, and they're proposing it. And the front yard setback to the building, this is a unique property, which is the C1 criteria, where there's 2 front yards and they're not next to each other, they're opposite each other. So it's Benson and Decatur Avenue, where on one side it's 43.13 feet is the average setback, and they're asking for 15 feet, which is probably more reasonable for this type of application. And again, you have to apply the MF standards based on what the ordinance requires to this type of application. So even though it's the WSD district, it's the use that they're applying for, it's the multifamily use. So I'll let the applicant continue with that.
Thank you, Mr. McLennan. Members of the board, my name is Chris Balanson, and I represent Janet McCarron and Michael McCarron with Janet tonight for the property that they own on between Decatur and Benson, identified as 215 North Decatur, WSD district. It's a 6,540 square foot lot. It's identified as lot 140 in block 425 in the Waterfront Special District. It is currently improved with a concrete building that houses Playgroups Plus, where my kids went, your kids went, where a lot of our children went for preschool. Roger outlined the variances, and I'll touch on those, but it's unfortunate. It's a function of the way the town and society is going. But from 55 kids there 5 years ago, with the dwindling family population and the implementation, it's a good thing, the implementation of preschool programs in our public schools. The building's too big for the 30 kids they have now versus the 55 they had several years ago. And that seems to be the trend that is going. Her preschool kids, she's down about 40%. And it seems to be going that way, so that doesn't make sense to continue to have it where it is. It's a property that these guys own, and they'd like to now develop it with 3 residential units. And as you heard, the deficiency is 2.98 units versus 3 units, which we're asking for, so it's 2/10, however that works.
That's about the 2.8 inches.
You know what, I was just gonna say, just absorb whatever you heard earlier in the evening. Call me a great lawyer, and I'll take it. In recognition, and it was pointed out, this project started out as 4 units because it was two frontages. That I became involved. I thought, Janet and I talked. I thought that was a lot. It's reduced to 3, and in recognition of there's a deficiency with respect to density. One of the units is 2 bedrooms, and one of the units is 3 bedrooms. So, and 1 unit's 5. So you have a total of 10 bedrooms. Where traditionally I think you'd find here is 3 units, 4 bedrooms each at least, or 12 bedrooms, and we're asking for 10. The project is split, so there's a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom on one side and a 5-bedroom on the other. The variances are for the conditional use, which for a mixed-use building in the WSD zone or in the CBD zone, required to have commercial at grade. It just doesn't make sense in this environment and that location to have commercial at grade. You would have a storefront sandwiched between 2 municipal buildings and a boatyard, and there would be nothing that would attract any foot traffic to that location at all. So rather than try to do that, we're going to ask for the 3 units and not have the commercial at grade. It doesn't work. It generally doesn't. The only place it's really worked in town is a couple locations on Washington Avenue, right off of Ventnor Avenue, and a couple locations on Essex Avenue, of course, and Granville Avenue, up the street from Dino's. It really hasn't worked on what the long-term planning committee did years ago was develop that corridor from the beach to the bay on Washington Avenue. That just hasn't planned out, and there's really no commercial at all coming up the streets off of the bay, off Amherst Avenue, that location. None. We recognize this on Douglas Avenue where it hadn't worked, and under those circumstances, the board found within their purview to grant the variance. We would like that to be looked at the same tonight. There's a C variance for front yard setback of 15 feet versus half the depth of the lot. We don't think that is unreasonable. The property will be overparked with 8 parking spaces versus, I think, 6 that are required for 3 units. All the bulk criteria otherwise comply, and we think for that location, with the municipal buildings located on each side and the boatyard, this will be a real nice aesthetic addition to the bayfront area, eliminating the building that's there and substituting it with what's proposed. And it's not as if this is going to start any kind of a catalyst on that block for residential, because it's all the remainder of the property is either municipal or it's Scott Stock or the Amherst Avenue duplex. So it's not going to be a trend following down, and you're going to see people asking for additional density on this block. Janet and John Barnhart. Janet's the owner and the applicant. John is our engineer and planner. You have them both sworn at the same time, Leo?
Sure. All right, Ms. McCarron and Mr. Barnhart, you can just state your name and address for the record, so I'll swear the 2 of you in.
Janet McCarron, 8801 Amherst Avenue, Margate.
All right.
John Barnhart, 400 North Dover Avenue, Atlantic City.
Great. And if you can each please raise your right hand, each swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth.
I do.
Okay, and Mr. Barnhart, licensed engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey, will obviously accept his credentials.
Yes.
Okay.
And before Janet starts, I do have 2 neighbor letters, one from Kristen and Joe Nichols across the street, another from Scott and Peggy Brown across the street, both fully in support, and I'll suggest that the Browns talk about it'd be nice to have the 3 residential units and get rid of the commercial and be relieved of the morning and afternoon drop-off pickup of kids in that area. They both kind of mimic the same comments. Janet, I'm not going to ask you a million questions, but give the board the development and progression of playgroups till now, and what's happening,
All right,
along with why you think it's appropriate in this location to do what you're doing.
all right. So the building where I am, 215 North Decatur, was built prior to 1960. I bought it 27 years ago. Originally, it was a garage for the city that the city had. The whole block was city property, and this must have been one of their mechanical garages. So I bought it 27 years ago. I put a second floor on 20 years ago just to enhance the building. It was just a square, so to make it look better, that's what I did. Over the years, the preschool has grown, and like Chris said, I was at Max, I'm licensed 52, I was at Max for years and years, and then with all the other school districts bringing free pre-K for 3 and 4, I'm down a good 30–40%. The building has come to the part where it just needs new work all the time. And every time I turn around, something else is breaking, something else needs to be fixed. So in the last 3 years, I've replaced the driveway and sidewalks, heating and air conditioning units, and hot water heater. If I was to continue there, I would have to do new electrical for the lighting, the upstairs deck railing, and new windows. Okay, so it's at the point that more money is going after this business than is coming in due to state and a lot of other factors. The only way I could make it up is if I was to put in a suppression system, which you guys know what it would cost more than I do. And I take infants, but I could never recover the cost of putting that suppression system in, on this old building. So that would be the only way to work it out. So I've decided let's take it down, let's put up something that's conducive to the neighborhood, and I'll retire, which won't be a problem. So.
Jen, although you've had a good run there,
Yeah, I've had a great run.
positive experience.
Yes.
It hasn't necessarily been the greatest use there for the summer population who come in and park their cars and live
Right.
on the side because of your drop off and your pickup.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that.
Okay, I will.
A couple pictures to show the board.
So, drop-off and pickup has grown immensely over the years, and in the summer, I do double the numbers what I do in the winter now due to the preschool thing. And a lot of Margate people drive nicely, and a lot don't. So, which I pass that one out. So this is this morning with some of the families walk there, okay, but you have one car in the lot behind mine, another come across traffic to drop their child off. Don't look too close because it's a local family. And then other people walking their kids in between the cars to get into the building. Okay, so now the rest of it is, this is a classic, and this was this morning. 2 cars across the street where I have asked the city to put up signs saying, don't park this side, and the city was great about doing it, but they still park against the traffic on the other side. And then this car trying to back out. And it's the same in the back with Leslie's dance studio. Same thing, because she has drop off and pick up. So everybody backing out, they park over in the city electrical lot and stuff. So the traffic has really increased. And Decatur has a lot of streets in Margate. Coming off Amherst and turning down Decatur is a tight turn as it is. And now there's a lot of trucks always parked there or cars for the houses. So it's just a tight street. That's really the bottom line on it.
Doesn't really work well with little kids.
No, not at all, because they have to be escorted to and from the building, but you open the door, they go running out there, and the next thing you know, the moms are screaming, yelling down the street for them. Nobody's been hurt, though, I can say that. Okay, so that's the traffic end of it. Right?
What about in terms of your belief on that location for a store, for instance?
Oh, okay, then we're moving right along. So the building is sandwiched between 2 public lots. One is a garage, a working garage, and the other is just an empty lot that's utilized by the boatyard. This is what the lot looks like. All right? I don't feel that that's really aesthetically pleasing. All right? I can't imagine a commercial business coming in there. I don't care how beautiful the storefront would be. If you go and look at that empty lot on the side, it kills anything. I mean, I feel it'll even affect the sale of this somewhat, as I think it's doing to the corner property. But that's the city situation. But Decatur's an off-the-road street. You don't have foot traffic going by. A new store, a new commercial business would be great on Ventnor Avenue because you walk by and you see it. You don't see this place at all.
Even regardless of what Scott's Yard looks like, do you really see much foot traffic on Amherst Avenue?
No, they're all going
In
to,
your location at all?
not at mine.
Right.
You're going down Amherst to Tomatoes, Stephen Cook's, and all those other places. All right, but you're not turning down Decatur at all. And then when the letters went out for letting people know about this, I had 2 neighbors come over and ask me about what I was going to do. And the first thing out of both of their mouths was, "We will not miss the traffic that you create." You know, and I wasn't that aware of it because I'm always inside. You know, so I guess I owe the neighbors an apology, but it is really congested. Drop off and pick up, and again in the back with the dance.
And you had this, you gave this picture just to show aesthetically what you'd like to do.
Yeah, so this is what's across the street from me now, okay? We used to have Mojo's Restaurant. When that closed, it became multi-use residential. I'm using on the thing. So this is what's across now. What I was adamant about in talking to the architect was I didn't want anything that needed variances. Well, that didn't work out. But I didn't want to go oversized. I didn't want density problems. I wanted to build something that would be consistent with the neighborhood. And the whole neighborhood, especially on Decatur, is multi-use properties. I don't think there's multifamily. Okay, multifamily homes. That's true all behind me. I don't think there's any single-family home on the street at all. Matter of fact, I don't think so. So, and most of them are year-round people, which looks nice. All right. You know, so I was just trying to say consistent with what's there, which I think this kind of does it pretty well with what's being planned.
In terms of what you, as wacky design, came up with, in recognition of the fact that your density is 0.2% off,
Right.
whatever we calculated, the size of a couple of units is small.
Yes.
The 3-bedroom and 2-bedroom.
Yes.
Was that done intentionally?
Yes. So
for
I would have.
that reason?
Yes.
And tell the board a little bit about what your thought process was in that regard.
I can't.
I mean, instead of doing.
Help me out here, Chris.
Instead of doing as I said, 3-4 bedrooms.
Right.
You thought that in terms of density, in terms of congestion, that the smaller units, a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, would be better for the neighborhood.
I did, and I also thought it could enhance more affordable living for people in Margate rather than anything being over millions and millions of dollars. So you have one beautiful unit out front that the rich guy can buy, you know, and then 2 smaller ones for families. Yeah, in the back.
Thanks, John.
All right. Is that it? What, can I say one more thing? Where'd Jim go?
He had to recuse himself.
Oh, my gosh. Put in the minutes that I said, welcome back. I was so happy to see him. I'm so happy he's doing well. That was a scare. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks. John? John, you're a licensed special planner and engineer in the state of New Jersey,
Yes.
and have worked in front of this board and this municipality and surrounding municipalities for years. And have years and years of experience in this area and in front of this board and others in the area.
Yes.
Would you be kind enough to take the board through the existing conditions at the site and the zoning?
Sure.
And then talk about the project and why we believe it's appropriate at this location?
Sure. Okay, most of you are probably more familiar with this block than I am, in fact, but the subject site it's an interesting location within Margate, within the Bay Area District, because of the uses that are in this block and the surrounding blocks. And it's a location that is hard to zone because there's so much going on between the municipal lots and then some higher density residential and then some intermediate density residential that it makes it difficult to appropriately zone. So it's a block that you're going to be looking at projects. Well, you're really not because most of them are city-owned, but any privately owned properties, which is just this one and the one next to us, or the one 2 removed, you have to look at them on a case-by-case basis because of the fact that the zoning is tough to address. But just to lay out our block and the adjacent blocks to understand how we arrived at our proposal, the yellow outline here is our site. You heard our client describe the property. As you're going toward Amherst Avenue, we have city-owned parcel immediately next to us with the well.
We then have the Scott Stock property that was just discussed. And then the 2-unit, the multifamily residential structure up on Amherst Avenue that's currently under construction. Going in the other direction toward Monmouth Avenue, you have the city parcel immediately next to us, the city garage, and then you have city parcels going all the way to Monmouth, which gets utilized as a parking area. Across Benson Avenue, you have high density apartment building right at the corner of Amherst and Benson, and then you have Public Works, again, city-owned parcels. So a real mix of uses on Benson Avenue. On Decatur Avenue, however, you have across Decatur, from one end of the block to the other, both all the way from Amherst to Monmouth Avenue, you have multifamily residential. You have, and just starting at Amherst Avenue, a project we did a number of years ago, which is an 8-unit project. Then you go to a 6-unit project, and then actually Alex links the 4-unit project there a number of years ago, and then on the corner of Monmouth and Decatur is a 6-unit project. So every one of the parcels on Decatur that face the property that's before you this evening are multifamily residential projects. This area, as was discussed by Chris, is required to have commercial at the ground floor. I'll get into the site layout, and then I'll discuss a little further as to why we believe our proposal is certainly the more appropriate proposal. So the layout of the site is basically because we have 2 frontages, is to create a building that has 2 frontages. So there does not appear to be a rear of a building, so there's an aesthetic improvement on both Benson and Decatur Avenue. So the way that the site is laid out is that you will have 2 units that have frontage and both garage and parking off of Benson Avenue. They are the 2 smaller units, the 2-bedroom and the 3-bedroom. And then the 5-bedroom unit is intended to face Decatur Avenue with 2 garages for that unit for a total of 4 cars. So the entire site will actually have 8 off-street parking spaces upon its completion.
Where I think 6 would be required otherwise?
6, I believe, would be required. That's correct. All of the bulk standards with regard to coverage, height, setback are all met with one minor deviation, and that is with regard to the Benson Avenue front yard setback. As it was already discussed, if you looked at the aerial that I had shown you, there's really no buildings to bring into the average front yard setback calculation that you normally hear about. So when you do the math based on the definition of the average required as it's required to be calculated, you end up with a front yard setback requirement on Benson Avenue of 43 feet. As Chris mentioned, it's literally half the depth of the lot. It's not appropriate. It's a front yard setback that would never be utilized under any circumstance. So what we have done, what Mr. Zawacki has done, is he's selected a front yard setback that is very much appropriate for residential development. That is 15 feet to the building itself, but 10 feet to front porches. It still allows some nice openness in the front of the site. It is consistent with the majority of your residential setbacks throughout the community. The averages tend to range in that 15-foot range, so he chose a number that works well, we think, within the city of Margate and within this block.
5's the minimum in WSD district.
And 5 is the minimum, that's correct. Yeah, if you had nothing to compare it to, it would default to the minimum, that's correct. But front yard setback on Decatur complies, side yard setbacks comply, landscape coverage complies, height complies, all your bulk standards comply with exception of that one, which we believe it's an anomaly in that it's applying the requirement is not appropriate. What we've planned here is the more appropriate setback. The other 2 deviations that are required were requested this evening. One is with regard to density, and then the other is with regard to the fact that we are not proposing commercial space on the ground floor. The density discussion is interesting. All of your applications tonight have been games of inches. We're in the same scenario in that this property is 109 feet deep and it's 60 feet wide. It calculates out to 2.97 units based on your minimum requirement of 2,200 square feet per unit. So just to put it into figures, the site is 20 square feet of land short for each one of the units in order to be fully compliant for 3 units to be developed on the property.
And percentage, what's 1%?
As a percentage basis, it is 1%. So it's an immeasurable amount of reduction with regard to the density request that's being made. And interestingly enough, and I don't have any proof of this, but this is an interesting area of Margate. If you look at some of the street dimensions, they're odd dimensions, and which I believe there was some kind of a bust or something that took place back many years ago when the streets were laid out. And this block actually lays out also at an odd number of 109. I don't know why, but it lays out at 109. But I was looking at this today. If that was a more normal number, if you're laying these blocks out at 110, this becomes a 110 by 60 lot. It's 6,600 square feet, and it's compliant for 3 units. That's just some narrative for you. But the point being, it's the deviation is so small. It's not something that you would ever be able to perceive as though we've built too much density on this specific piece of property. And I think,
What do you mean by 109 versus 110? Be more specific.
if this lot was 1 foot deeper, or 1 foot, if this block was 1 foot deeper at 110 feet, the lot would be 6,600 square feet and it would comply.
110 would be the ordinary development pattern or street pattern.
Yeah, you wouldn't normally lay out blocks at 109 feet. Right. The other thing to keep in mind is that because the majority of these parcels are city-owned on either side of us, you're not looking at a block that's potentially going to, I'm going to have another building next to me, another building next to that, and all of a sudden the density of that block has gotten to a point that's inappropriate. You're kind of locked in here. You might have one other property on this entire block that gets redeveloped. If you look at on a block basis, the residential density is way lower than the block immediately across Decatur Avenue, which I just described to you, which every one of those properties is either above the density or at the density. If you look, and I'll just go back to that real quick because I think it's important because it goes to our compatibility. When you look at the 6 units, the 4 units, the 6 units, and the 8 units, a number of these are right at the 2,200 square feet, and the one in the corner, for example, is down at 1,600 square feet per individual unit. So versus the 2,200 that's required. So the point being that our density, while it is a very, very de minimis deviation, it is right in keeping with all of the other residential that is on Decatur Avenue. So for all those reasons, we think the request for the density deviation is clearly warranted here. And then the other discussion this evening is with regard to commercial on the ground floor. And you heard Ms. McCarron's discussion of the property, the location, and her operation. One of the things that Ms. McCarron described with regard to her building is it's getting to a point of obsolescence and all the things that she needs to do to it. But what she didn't mention is that, and what Heather wasn't thinking about this, is when you start to aggregate all the things that she does need to do it, it's going to become a substantial improvement, which requires the building to either be flood-proofed or raised or demolished. So it's time for something to be reconstructed on this property that is compliant with flood and is compatible with the neighborhood. The reason that we believe that going to residential on the site is appropriate is because of its location. It's mid-block between 2 of your corridors, which are really not commercial corridors. It's between, at least at this end anyway. Amherst doesn't really turn commercial until you get another block or so down. And Monmouth is certainly not a commercial corridor. These streets are narrower than your standard streets. The majority of your standard streets are 50 feet wide in dimension, but then your commercial corridors get 80 and 100 feet wide in dimension, Ventnor Avenue, Atlantic Avenue. So these are narrow streets. They don't really warrant the traffic that you need to have a successful commercial operation on those streets. They create an issue with regard to visibility of a commercial property because of the narrowness of the streets.
How about compatibility with potential for any other storefront style commercial?
Yeah, and let's be honest, with the type of commercial in this board, as you know, and I've been involved in a lot of the applications, this board has done a great job in protecting your commercial in the locations where your commercial has an opportunity to be successful. At this location, there's no other critical mass of commercial there. So forcing Ms. McCarron to build some commercial on this site, it's a situation where it's, in all likelihood, it is not going to be able to be successful. Because just strictly because of its location, you're not going to have stores or other commercial operations on either side of it. You're not going to bring, whether it be foot traffic or bike traffic or vehicular traffic, you're not going to be able to bring that to this location to make the commercial operation
It would
successful.
result in one isolated storefront on a block of either municipal.
Correct. Whether it's a storefront or office or whatever, it's going to be an isolated user. If it were built and then to be potentially rented, I think it would be very difficult to find a tenant. It's worked for Ms. McCarron for all these years because 30 years ago, she developed a specialized use for it that became a destination for the families in the community. So it worked for her.
In fact, it wasn't a municipal building, it wasn't even a commercial building before that, it was a municipal building.
Right. So it worked for her specifically, but the likelihood of that again is pretty low. So with all that said, we have to justify, because we are D-variance, we have to justify the positive and negative criteria and put purposes of zoning on the record.
John, I want to talk about the landscaping for a minute. There is none there now, correct?
There is none.
There's not a speck of grass there.
I don't think so.
What is your estimate on the landscape you're putting in?
Yeah, we are compliant.
Oh, I know you're compliant. You're adding a heck of a lot of
Yeah,
landscape.
I think we're at the 35%.
I mean, it's really going to make the project much.
We're adding 35% green space to the
Yeah,
spot that doesn't exist.
it's going to be
It's gonna be a
beautiful.
great spot.
You're also adding 2 parking spaces.
Yes, you're getting to my justifications.
Okay.
So, the purposes of zoning that we believe are advanced are, I think that there are 3. First, we believe that this provides a desirable visual environment through creative design techniques. We think that Mr. Zawacki has developed an aesthetically pleasing building. He has created a building that has 2 fronts because it's on 2 street frontages. There's not a rear to the building that would not be appropriate up on a street. Because of the openness that he is allowed by complying with all the front, side, and rear yard setbacks and meeting the landscape, it actually creates, as Mr. Polisano just pointed out, it opens up this site by 35% of green space, which it really has had none for many, many years. So from an aesthetic enhancement perspective, which, let's be honest, this block could use some aesthetic improvement.
In fact, aside from Amherst Avenue, which recently just came on board, there's no landscaping in the entire block.
Anywhere, no, correct. So this is a nice relief to this property, and it's also a tremendous benefit to the neighbors across Decatur Avenue because they have, some of these properties are pretty tough to look at for them, and this will beautify or help to beautify the area. So we believe that purpose of zoning is advanced. I believe also that the purpose of zoning is advanced is promotion of free flow of traffic. You heard the existing use and the congestion that it has created over the years. A 3-unit residential building like this versus maxing this out on a commercial operation, from a traffic or trips perspective, the commercial operation is going to have many more trips than these 3 units would. This property,
From a practical standpoint, Janet said that it's a problem.
Yes.
In fact,
yes, with the current operation, correct. This property is this project is proposing 8 off-street parking spaces, which is greater than what is required. So for those reasons, we believe that free flow, that this application promotes the free flow of traffic. And we also believe that although we're asking for a minor density variance, I believe the purpose of zoning that's advanced here is the establishment of appropriate population densities. While it's a minor deviation from your ordinance, we believe it's very much appropriate for this location, given the surrounding developments, the surrounding densities. So we believe that the positive criteria are established by those 3 purposes of the municipal land use law.
what about the negative criterion?
With regard to the negative criteria, is there a substantial detriment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance? Residential is permitted in the location. The D variances are by virtue of the fact that we are not proposing commercial at the ground floor, which we don't believe is appropriate here. And then the 1% deviation in the density or lot area. We believe that the requests are so minor, and the fact that we have met nearly all of your bulk standards, that there is no substantial detriment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance. And the second prong of the negative criteria is there a substantial detriment to the public good. I would argue this is only a benefit to the public. You heard some of the comments about the traffic that's there right now as a result, or has been for years, as a result of the existing operation. I think that by redeveloping this property, beautifying this site, it's only going to enhance the surrounding properties, especially those residential parcels on Decatur.
And that's special reasons. Do you think this site is particularly suited for the varying use?
I think it is particularly well suited because, first of all, residential is permitted at this location. The only reason for the D variance is because we are not proposing commercial development.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
If Janet came in today and wanted to open up play groups there, she couldn't, that's a non-permitted use, right, in that area, is that correct?
I think schools are permitted.
Right.
There's nothing about a preschool or daycare in the zone. The the last permitted use, I think, says schools.
Okay.
School doesn't qualify as a school, it's not registered licensed as a school, daycare facility.
Right. Okay. All right, anybody from the board?
Yeah,
Anyone from the public?
no, I have a question.
I'm sorry.
When you talk about commercial properties, you're always talking about stores and storefronts and bringing in people like that. Well, there's more to commercial properties than just that. I mean, there's office spaces, there are other kinds of activities like construction sites may need a storage space. You may have an office for your architectural, you may have an office for your law firm. I hate to see Margate give up commercial property for this. But there are other things that we can do. That's it.
Our experience has been the promotion of commercial properties in Margate has always been to generate commercial that is available to the public, such as retail, such as personal service uses, rather than a construction yard or a storage facility, things of that nature, or a real estate office, which is.
We could always use more real estate offices.
Exactly, so even if it were an office, the kind of office, anybody who wanted to open up an office in Margate would want to be on Benner Avenue. I don't think anybody's gonna spend the money to invest in a real estate office, or a doctor's office, or a lawyer's office at that location, because, I mean, somebody wants some foot traffic. That's why they come to Margate, they don't come to, they can get something, if they don't want foot traffic, they can go to Ann Arbor Township or Pleasantville or Northfield and have a location that doesn't get foot traffic, and they'll be fine. Somebody who comes to Margate for an office, I think, wants some foot traffic. It's just not a site they're gonna get it.
Anybody else? Okay. Dale?
One comment, we're gonna make sure that Mr. Zawacki designs this to meet the FAR 1.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You have to open public and close it.
I think we already tried that one. Yeah.
We opened it and closed it, and Roger, just some of the design waivers, I guess, that you highlighted in the report, mostly apply to commercial or larger scale.
Correct.
So where applicable, I guess will be waived, we'll note.
Yes.
All right, so if there's no further questions, we need a motion and a second. It's a preliminary and final major site plan approval. The three variances, there's the conditional use, we call the D3 variance. Residential is allowed, conditioned on it being above commercial. Since there's no commercial, that requires the D3 variance. The density variance, what we call the D5 density variance. You can't exceed 19.8 dwelling units per acre, and they have 19.98 dwelling units per acre, or 2.97 units would be allowed, and they're proposing 3. And then the front yard setback is along the Benson Avenue side. 43.13 is required, and 15 feet proposed. As far as the waivers, I'll note that, to the extent, as outlined in Mr. McLaren's report and highlighted, as they apply to mostly commercial or more than 3 unit developments, they can be waived. And conditions will note anything in Mr. McLaren's report unless otherwise addressed. They'll meet that FAR 1. They'll submit compliance plans consistent with the approval granted, and subject to any outside approvals that may be required, and just the normal standard conditions we put in any approval or any resolution.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Tom Collins?
As everybody knows, I am a big supporter of commercial on the first floor under residential. This case here, you have a waterfront district, a multifamily residential district. Some of the rules are CBD. It's a very, very confusing area. And it's basically a utility area for the city. I think in this case here that the hardship is the location and the streets and the age of the building from the city. So I really do think that it does qualify under the C1. And as far as the betterment of the city, the C2, I think it's going to improve the neighborhood. It's gonna make the city yard look easier, but, and I think you're really getting the highest and best use that you can in that neighborhood. You can't put commercial there, it's just not the right place to do it. And I think the way you designed it, Janet, I give you a lot of kudos, and John, you did a really nice job. Chris, I'm not so sure, but, but
You're a
yeah,
great attorney.
I vote in favor.
Richard Patterson?
Chris, you're a great attorney. Tom said it all. To me, I'm also always pushing for non-real estate office commercial development in town, but it's just the narrow streets, it just doesn't fit there. I really think you did a good thing there with the 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom, and, you know, have the one expensive one and 2 others. I can almost guarantee that somebody's gonna buy it and complain about the boatyard and Maynard's music, but, I see no detriments, and I see it as a positive to clean up that neighborhood, and just the landscaping alone, and along with the one on Amherst Avenue, is going to really improve it. I approve.
Michael Richmond?
Yeah, I understand what Steve's saying about commercial, and it could have been an office, whatever. But I know from personal experience, if you're familiar with Douglas Avenue, if you go around the corner there from, I don't know, what is the maintenance place now, it used to be the dress store. We you know where that little store is, the gift store? So we had an office there. Before that, it was an Italian market. Before that, it was a dog place. And, you know, everything lasted about a year. We moved our office around Atlantic Avenue. It was like night and day. So that being said, I don't think that that's the greatest spot for commercial. I think that doing the building is the homes is a much better way to develop that area. And I also agree that, you know, having a 2-bedroom and even a 3-bedroom might make it more affordable for possibly somebody that wants to live here year round to, you know, to be able to afford something like that. So I'm going to approve it.
Stephen Giesecke?
I still think that there's something that we could do with that commercially. And I don't want to lose up any more commercial space in Margate. I'm going to vote no.
Michael Ruffey?
I think the case is a prime example of why the board exists. I think it's a perfectly reasonable application given the location of the applicant's property, and also the difficulty in putting any commercial space on that first floor, you know, due to the location and the surrounding properties. I really don't see any negatives, nothing but benefits, and I vote yes.
Margaret Gubernalty?
I see only positives to this application. I mean, the conditions we're getting parking, we're relieving traffic, we're getting more green space. I think it beautifies the area as to what exists there now. The building's antiquated. I don't think the street lends itself to putting commercial on the first floor at all. Not even another real estate office. I just think the positives outweigh the negatives. The only negative here is we're losing Playgroups Plus. That's the only negative, you know, near and dear to my heart anyway, and losing Miss Janet. But I think it's a great project, and I approve it.
Craig Palmisano?
Yes, I wish you luck on everything there in retirement and the sale of the properties. And I think it's a big improvement in the way that it's going to bring greenery to that area, a lot of greenery to that area that has none. It's barren. It's very barren on that street. You're going to have people living there and having housing built there. It's going to be a good thing, I think, for that block. I don't think commercial works at all on small streets like that. There's only a few side streets in Margate where the commercial does work. Essex Avenue is one, and there's only a couple other streets, but I I wish you luck and I approve.
Motion carries, 6 in the affirmative and 1 opposed.
Thank you very much.
For the record, Mr. Balance is
Okay. Anything else?
Chris?
Are we good?
Right here.
You want your pictures? Want to put them as a exhibit?
No, I think we're good. All in favor?
Aye.
Huh? Gotta have 4 pages, 9 o'clock.
You mean right here? Thank you.
Planning board meeting, I was riding my bicycle. Screaming nearly ran me over.
I'll
He
figure it
didn't
out.
stop at the stop sign. Right
No.
to the stop sign.
I'll shoot you an email.
Yeah, whatever, it's fine.
The audio, I'll figure it out.
Okay.
You need the motion to the seconds, right?
Yes, I couldn't have.
Yeah, he's got to grow up.
Good, how are you?
Me? Thank
I
you.
know. I know.
Yeah.
No, I came home from Vegas, I had COVID, and I was like, was there Monday, that was it.
Sit next to me, everything goes downhill.
It's pretty well, it's 2 weeks already. So I. Yeah.
Right.
See what happens after you get married, Mike? I got married. Then I got sick. Married life isn't been a green. That's what I say to Larry. But it's all good, yeah. We had a ball with the company at the Sphere. And we got married some chapel. We had a ball. It was fun.
That's good. Congratulations.
Thank you, I got him.
Yes, yes.
I didn't.
You don't even get hazard pay tonight.
I'll get a new one. Want to give me a new one?
I don't know if you're gonna.
I'm gonna shoot out an email.
What was the name of that?
I mean-
Luz? L-E-W-S?
You said you're
Yes,
good. He said he's good.
L-E-W-S.
L-E-W-S.
It's good. So, assuming
Luz.
Scott and whoever Scott. wants
Maybe I
to-
can get my license.
Roger
Do
said
the
he-
flood, inspection. Lead-based paint inspection. Maybe I should do it.
There's a guy,
Think we can finish here?
Make
Bill
myself-
Potts, not John Pitts. Bill Potts, white hair,
Doctor Ness.
white coat.
We have to go to school.
Yeah?
Today?
How'd you do that?
Oh my God, the streets are bad.
Really?
It wasn't as bad. It was
Oh,
quicker
okay.
offshore.
I always
The
stop and
streets are
think,
bad in Margate, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, because I was saying, I was in my office, it was raining, and I started to drive home, I was driving, and I was like, going through floods, I'm like, what?
OCF Realty.
Weekend looks
Had
nice.
been.
though.
We're so bad.
good
I
seeing
called
you.
Jeff
Good
Miller.
seeing you.
I think you should change the name of your company from
Sure you'll see me
OCF
again.
to OSC, Ocean Front. It was so flooded. Bad. I'm terrible.
How's he making out of it?
He called his number, they said he's no longer with this company. I don't know the guy's phone number.